Oh boy, do we have a fun subject to talk about today. I'm gonna need the caffeine up for this one. Today we're gonna talk about a car manufacturer, a specific car manufacturer that is really loved and really hated within the car community. And by really hated, I mean really hated. And that brand would be Honda. Now, I myself do own a 1990 Honda Civic, and I'm sure there's plenty of you that are watching right now that also own a Honda. So why do people hate this brand so much? What is it about this H that's inside square, that are on cars, that gets people so infuriated? So I'm going to share my philosophy on why I think Honda gets so much hate within the car community, or even in general. But to enter said philosophy, I want to talk about the reasons that I believe that most people buy Hondas. There's 7 of them, and they're the reasons that I bought a Honda, and they're the reasons that pretty much everyone I know who's a car enthusiast who bought a Honda. Reason number 1, they are extremely cheap. You can find yourself a decent 90s Honda for probably a little bit above or under $2,000. Like my Honda was under $2,000. Reason number 2, they are very reliable. Their engines can run for a very long time with very little issues. My engine, my D15B2, is 26 years old, going on 27 years old, and it's still running strong. About as strong as a 27-year-old D15 will run, which is decently strong. And my brother and sister-in-law have a 2001 Honda Civic, and has pretty much been untouched its entire life, and it's running perfectly fine, like it's brand new basically. Reason number 3, they are very easy to work on. The older Hondas, their engine bays are extremely uncluttered, and they lack a bunch of miscellaneous items that you would find in newer cars or even a lot of other cars from the 90s. Pretty much everything is right there in front of you when you open the hood, and you have to do very little sifting to get through parts that you want to work on. Reason number 4, they have an extremely good aftermarket. Pretty much every aftermarket brand that supports Japanese cars supports Honda, and pretty much every parts dealer that you can find online has parts for Honda. You have a very wide variety of good aftermarket companies to choose from when you are building a Honda as a project car. Reason number 5, they are extremely light cars. My car weighs around 2,100 pounds, and I have a friend that has an EG hatch, and his car also weighs around 2,100 pounds. And for a car that is very light, like even the newer Hondas, like the newer Honda Civics, they weigh under 3,000 pounds, and for today's standards, for a car having all the miscellaneous bells and whistles and safety features and stuff, that's very light. Reason number 6, they are extremely nimble cars. Most of the front-wheel drive Hondas handle extremely well for being front-wheel drive, and the rear-wheel drive ones do as well. And that is because they are extremely light. They have go-kart handling. You can throw one around a corner with ease and come back unscathed. Finally, reason number 7. You can make them really fast without really having to break the bank. It really does not take that much to make a Honda fast. Like, you can probably do a decent turbocharged project for around $5,000 or so, which in terms of project cars is not really that bad. So this all sounds all fine and dandy. I mean, it sounds like it's something that every tuner wants. A cheap car that's reliable, has a good aftermarket, handles well, and you can make really fast for not a lot of money. So what's the problem? Well, let's start with my first point, and that would be Honda's, not necessarily main, but one of Honda's biggest demographics, car enthusiasts between the ages of 16 and 25. Now, when you're at that age, let's say specifically 16, you want to have a fast car, and you want to have a fast car now. Like, you really want to get into the tuner game, and you are not very patient, and you're probably pretty ignorant. Trust me, once upon a time I was 16, and when I was 16, my plan was to get a Integra LS, have the B18 B1 bottom end, and put a B16 A2 top end on it, turbo it, and have a 700 horsepower daily with no problem. Didn't know how I was going to do it. All I knew was that I was going to do it. Now here I am now. I am 19. I do not have an Integra. I have an EF, and I don't even plan on putting a turbo on it. So you got these kids, they want to get in the tuner game, and they don't have very deep pockets, so they're looking for a car, and since one of the most popular tuner cars out there are Hondas, they are probably going to go with a Honda. There'd be Civic, Integra, Del Sol, maybe even a Prelude, who knows. So they order all these parts, whether it be crappy parts or even good parts, and they just slap everything on their car, and they don't do it right. And once they have everything slapped on their car, as far as they're concerned, they're done. So they're out driving around in their race car that they carelessly put together because they wanted a race car now. So they're out driving around, and people see it, and it's a total piece of crap, and everyone's like, wow, that's a total piece of crap. So, and unfortunately that happens so often that everyone sees these Hondas that have been poorly put together by younger people, and they begin to build the stereotype that every single Honda that has been modified is a piece of crap done by an ignorant teenager. So let's go into my second point, and that is the array of really cheap, bad aftermarket parts. The reason I believe that there are so many crappy aftermarket parts out there for Hondas is that big aftermarket companies, cheap aftermarket companies, are looking for a demographic, and they see that one of the biggest tuner demographics are within Hondas. So they're like, alright, we're gonna build Honda parts. So you have these cheap aftermarket companies building these parts for Hondas, and they toss them up on eBay or wherever, and you have the young ignorant kids seeing all these parts. They see the good prices, not necessarily because they don't have money, but just because that they don't know any better. They buy all these cheap aftermarket parts, and they get a lot of them because they're not expensive, they can, and then they throw them on their car, and they're, like I said, crappy aftermarket parts, so they make for a crappy build car, and that leads to them driving around in the streets with these fart can exhausts and bad turbos or whatever, bad body kits or anything that could remarkably make the car look like crap or run like crap or sound like crap. Everyone sees them, and again, they build a stereotype that every single modified Honda is a piece of crap driven by an ignorant teenager. And my third and final point on why people hate Honda so much is just that there are ignorant people out there that are assholes. Since the stereotype is so lodged in their head that no matter what, they're going to hate Honda just because, like I said, they're ignorant assholes. And there are people out there where you could show them a 7-second Honda Civic or a Civic that like kills it on the Nürburgring or whatever, or like sets a good lap time on any track, and they're still not going to have it. They still have the stereotype etched in their brain so hard that they're just never going to not hate Hondas. Honestly, the only thing you can really do about this kind of people is just kind of ignore them. I mean, who cares what other people think? It's your car, build it how you want. Just do it right. Final thoughts on this subject is, one, with Hondas, it is seriously not the car. Like, it is really not the car. And, like, any bad modification to the car or whatever has been done to the car poorly is completely on the owner. And I see people all the time like, oh, we don't hate the Hondas, we hate the owners. Yet whenever someone presents someone with a nice Honda, they still call it a lawnmower because they hate Honda so much. Because of the drivers that poorly modify their Hondas and drive around the street and everyone sees them and yeah, you get the whole point now. Yeah, like in all seriousness, it is not the car's fault. The car has done nothing wrong. It is all the owner. So before you go and conclude Honda to be a terrible car brand, just think about that for a second. Secondly, when you're building a car, do not cheap out on the parts. Get genuine aftermarket parts. It will definitely be worth it in the end, and if you get cheapo parts, you're going to regret it. Just because you found a good deal on a turbo kit on eBay does not mean you should get it. Because when you put a cheapo part in your engine and it's poorly produced and it breaks, it could create a whole domino effect of problems. Like if your turbo kit blows, that could bend your rods, camshaft like cracks and falls apart, it could send shrapnel in the other parts of the engine. It's just a big mess that you could avoid by buying genuine aftermarket parts. Because if you buy the cheapo part just to save a couple bucks and the part is crap, your engine's going to break and you're going to end up paying probably double, triple, even quadruple what you actually paid for that cheap part in order to fix your engine. And finally, just don't be an asshole. Like, there is literally no reason to spread negativity on the internet towards other people's cars. I'm really not a fan of lifted trucks, but I don't call them a hickmobile or whatever, or like insult them in any way every time I see one on the internet just because it's a lifted truck. So if you see a Honda on the internet and you're not really a fan of Hondas, you don't have to make the Ricer comment. That does nothing but spread negativity in the car community, and that is the last thing we need. Because a car community is a community, and communities that are divided end up falling apart. So that's pretty much it. You guys agree? What do you guys think? Why do you think people hate Hondas? If you hate Honda, why do you hate Honda? But if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe if you are not, and if you are subscribed, make sure you hit the little bell button so you actually get notifications for when I upload. And until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.